Hey, what's up? I'm Rashad.
And I'm Keisha.
This is Hanging with the Joneses, the Upon Further Review channel, where we do reaction reviews and, of course, podcasts. Today, we want to talk about...
What episode is this?
77.
Is it 77 or 76? Oh, we record episode 77.
77, like I said, and I confirmed that. So today, I want to talk about a topic that is, I think that people kind of tap dance around it, but don't really discuss it a lot. And that is how religion, of course, can affect a marriage or relationship. The only religion we really know what people would consider Christianity. So we have to speak about it from that angle. But if you're of another religion, then you can definitely chime down in the comments to see if it kind of, correlates with what you're happening and what you're dealing with as well. So how do you want to start this off?
I've been saying this for years. Religion is supposed to put people together, not separate. But the more and more I'm seeing is the exact opposite. Especially, and sometimes honestly being not healthy. And I've been seeing this for 10 or plus years that actually when sometimes abuse or stuff has taken place, people won't separate or get a divorce because of religion. And then when they finally get the nerve to divorce, they're getting backlash by the church. And honestly, some has been treated like they had leprosy. A rare contagious disease from back in the Bible days. You really don't see it now.
It's in Florida.
Right.
For real.
I know. But some are treated like they're shunned off because you broke a vow of getting a divorce. But it's like, okay, I did, but it's nothing said that the reason that person may have gotten divorced is especially because there's domestic violence. But it seemed like I have seen often like it's justified for I'm using this example, a man to abuse a woman, but it's definitely not. Well, you shouldn't get a divorce, even though you're being abused, because he's the man, and you keep praying, and this would change, and I'm like in any relationship, I never recommend anyone separate. Like that's not my decision to make. You two got to come together and say you want to separate, you want a divorce. However, if you tell me abuse is in there, I do recommend y'all need to separate. Because it's really life and death. What do you think about religion and divorce and marriage, relationships?
For me, I was actually thinking about this like yesterday. The hierarchy they always tell you was like God, family, church. However, it's never really like that. Especially with that, it's always, from my experience, it's been a lot of church first.
Yeah. And
you're spending a lot of time there. Of course, it's the place, it's the edifice, it's where we come in fellowship. Oh, how good and pleasant and for the brethren to dwell together in unity and all that good stuff. But for me, especially early on, it was a lot of working, trying to do something, but not really balancing it all out, especially when it comes to the whole family part. Because and this is the sad part. You see where you doing the quote unquote work of the Lord, and the family is kind of on the wayside. And of course, even you saw when you was watching that show about the like gospel singer kids thing on what's the name of that show? Remember?
Don't ask me.
Yeah, but you remember but it had like that like dude that was on The Voice or whatever, and the other guy, and like Fred Hammond's daughter.
Yeah.
And we saw how she was like, "Yo, my dad was never there.
Yeah.
My dad don't recognize me." And we all, all of us grew up, especially if you was halfway in the church. You knew of Fred Hammond, you knew of Commission, and a lot of those songs I can trace back. And it kind of like, oh man, I remember I was at, I heard that, or coming back to them as an adult and have more meaning because I'm grown now. Mm-hmm. But seeing that is just a reminder that like, look, a lot of these people were doing these things, and I didn't think even about having kids in the family because it's all about, your man is singing, he's doing a great job, he must be a great person, and somebody's perspective say,
he's
hey,
doing the Lord's work.
Yeah, that's what I preface this with. And like he's like, yo, my dad is really like this, or like my dad to y'all is this, but to me is non-existent because they wasn't there.
Don't have the time to be dad because he's I'm gonna say ministering. I'm not saying he isn't, but he's not. He's on the road. He's always gone, so he doesn't have time to be that.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
And then even sometimes I look at that, and we'll go back to the domestic violence thing. But even I look at that, and I said the church is going to have to apologize for a lot of relationships ending, a lot of unhealthy families. Why? Because especially when you become a certain position in church, and once again, this is not all churches, just saying there's some. When you come position in church, you're needed everywhere. You need it every day of the week. So at that time, and then church, my experience, church is not always the place where you spend quality time with your family. Because if I have a leadership position, I'm going forward in X ministry, and the children are in
wherever.
Right. So that's how when you even look, sometimes when you see preachers' kids, PK kids, where they say PK kids are always the worst, you just assume because their children and their parents are preachers that they got the best teaching. No, because I'm preaching and doing whatever, my children are kind of left behind, but I'm not with them. No, especially I gotta sanctify myself. I gotta make sure I'm there. And I'm not a preacher. Don't get me wrong. I'm a preacher. I'm not a pastor. But that, I look back and I'm like, my children are with such and such. My children such and such, which is a good favor for me. I'm thankful that they'll watch our children. But I'm just like, but I'm not really spending any time with them because I'm up ministering. And then it came to the realization of why PK kids can get this name of the worst, because how much time am I really putting into, or we put into real non-children because we're ministering.
Yeah, to everybody else.
Yeah. So we had this time when me becoming a minister, that was one of the questions, like, what's the priority? And I said it was God, my family. Not saying it was God, me, my family, and church. And people, and I know no one said anything about it, but I'm like, if you think about it, it first has to be God because he's the creator. Without God, ain't none of that going to happen. But then I have to be somewhere on the list because how am I doing all this stuff if I'm not even prioritize myself? How am I being there for the church or my family if I'm not taking care of myself? Once again, the example of the car, having the car, no engine, no gas, and you expect it to run. And then once I feel good, then I can help my family. And then because my family's doing good, I can feel stronger going forward in church. But I just say, and we all know religion has started wars. And you even know they tell us like one of the things in society not to talk about is religion, sex, and politics. If you want to start a war, talk about any of these topics, it's going on. It's going down. But I really thought about that. It's like, and even before, when Rashad was a minister before I was, and I had some medical issues, and I lost my sight, so my sight finally kind of came back better, and we had a newborn, and there was something where ministers had to sit in a certain position. If you wasn't a minister, you couldn't. And I was like, wait, hold on. It hit me. I said, I am struggling here, barely can see, but because he's a minister, he gets to sit in this position and leave his household, forget about his wife and children, because he's a minister, so he got to go forward with the ministry. He got to help others. I'm like, how about us? I'm literally leaning on the kindness of strangers to help me. And I was like, oh, this is not right. And then I went to someone else's church, and their wife was sick. And the pastor was like, I know your wife is sick, but you're a minister. It's your job to come up to the front and be the minister. And I was like, oh, my gosh, how does that sound? Even though she's sick, the church is more important than your wife. But then if separation occurs or divorce occurs, then it's the condemnation of the church of why weren't you doing what you're supposed to do at home? And it's like that's when it hit me. Now I've seen it all my life, but it really hit me in those instances. It was like, oh, this is a little bit imbalanced. And I told him, I was like, I was heated. I was like, I'm sitting here struggling, and to sit there and sitting there comfortably in the chair, and I'm like, children, bags, newborn baby, barely can see, walk up the step, and I'm like, did anyone say, let me help? The wife? And then when we both became ministers, we had to be careful because we didn't want to both be up there and wear our children's. And that's sometimes what happened. That I'm seeing a lot of, we're up there doing the Lord's work and our children are running around or outside or not even there or whatever, or we leaving them to someone else to watch them. Thoughts?
Ooh, that was a lot.
Yeah, it was. Absolutely.
For me, and it put me in like in a real awkward position, especially early on, because I'm trying to do what I think I'm supposed to be doing, and then on the other hand, it's like it's almost like don't forget about me. I feel like that's what you're trying to say. Like I know you being, what I'm saying, doing this role now, but like don't forget about your actual role, and also you need to make sure that I'm a part of this as well to a certain degree. And it can be really tricky trying to balance it out. And especially when you don't, because it was a new experience for me. Like I really didn't have the advantage of experience. So I was just seeing what was been done. And then like a lot of things with you buck against all of those things. And then I have to respond to your reaction. You feel what I'm saying?
I'm processing that buck against.
I mean, you do buck against a lot of things that are considered norms. You question them very quickly, and it's just that's just an honest observation.
Yeah,
so,
I'll take that. I'll take that one.
For me, I have to be like, oh, okay. Now this is thing. I'm thinking it's gonna go one way. You go hard left on this, and now I'm supposed to be able to then gather myself in the moment and make a decision. And it was really rough because there are expectations, and then there's also the expectation of you.
And to me, it wasn't just about what about me. Is what about your first ministry? And when there is a balance too, because like I said, I was struggling in that time. We just had the third child. She's a baby. Just kind of my sight's kind of getting restored. I was struggling at that time.
No, like so it was a perfect storm. Like
yeah,
like I'm not trying to discredit that, but there's a little bit of me that you still would have questioned that regardless of the situation. Like there's a little bit of me that would have been like, man, like Keisha probably would have still felt a certain type of way. You may not have expressed it so vehemently, but a piece of me says that you still would have kind of felt a certain way about it. So because that's just who you are as a person, and there is no denying that or trying to downplay that. You gonna question it.
I did have because my thought, and thankfully the church we was at, beside that situation, it wouldn't matter if another situation. I was able to sit beside him and with his family. But just looking at how that's not in everyone's church and how that really can cause separation, division, or even just the thought of I'm leaving my person behind because they're in the leadership now. You know what I mean? That could bring tension to a relationship.
Yeah.
That kind of power struggle.
It did.
Yeah.
It did bring tension.
Yeah. I was heated. But then some other things were said, about also, being a female, I should play this role. And that's the thing that was like, oh, yeah, I'm getting this from the church. Tell me because I'm a woman, I need to make sure the kids are right. I need to work hard, be a freak in the bed, be a lady in the streets, make sure he's okay, And he got congratulated for showing up. It was only one person that came to me one morning. She was like, not one, but I'm just saying, I particularly remember, who was like, I see all that you do, and other people might look over, but I see all that you do, and I know the family goes on because of you. Well, and Rashad can tell you, I was getting hit up. Like, no, it wasn't like I did anything, but I was just getting hit up with advice on how I should be a married woman. And it was, and I do question social norms, because a lot of times the social norm is always to put down a woman. Or a woman has a role to play in order to satisfy a man or get a man or keep a man. Or it's always that. And unfortunately, a lot of it got played out in church.
Very patriarchal.
Yeah.
And
he'll tell you.
And a lot of, I mean, shoot.
Rashad tell you a lot of times he got rewarded for showing up.
I mean, I didn't have to do a whole lot. And sometimes I didn't put in a whole lot of effort to stuff, and you know, I still was getting bigged up.
Right.
So it's sometimes it was real. It was real. I mean, it almost got comical after a while. I'm like, Keisha will sometimes like suggest something, and I'll wait. I said, well, let me ask later. Then I'll ask, and it'd be all good.
Same thing. I could like, Rashad, I could like, you know, yabba dabba do that. Quiet or no one here. He'll come behind and be like, you know, the yabba dabba do. Oh my God. It's like, yo, did you understand? I just said that.
Yeah.
And, you know, and even stuff he would say, they would look to me for interpretation of it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, ask him. Like, why is that my role to interpret? Ask him, he's right here. But it's like, you're the wife, that's what you, and not even just church, because I also I look at society too. I would say, especially, I don't know if I see it as much now, but especially growing up, how many magazines or quizzes, 101 ways to keep a man, 101 ways to do this to a man, 101 ways. I have never, maybe I'm wrong, I have never seen a magazine that said 101 ways to keep your woman.
No, because that would be, nah.
We got to keep you. We ain't got to be kept. No. Nah. So I go back to even fairy tales. How fairy tales always paint women in the light of damsel in distress, can't do nothing to a man on a white horse come and save us. And even the characters, either they're an older woman, probably close to my age now, they was always jealous of younger women or teenagers coming up. You know, they always paint it as ugly and stuff. Yeah, I'll bring it back to that. But saying that we have to be careful. So I am careful to buck the system. I do buck the system sometimes because the system usually times I'm the one that have to buck because I get put down in the system because I'm a woman. An assignment I didn't choose. Like, I was born this way. So because I was born this way, I'm getting already put down.
Yeah. It's even going back to the whole thing about like
excuse me.
Like domestic violence or just being manipulated or any type of like abuse, whether it be like mental or physical or whatever.
Spiritual, economic.
Yeah. Or just even like socially, like being isolated. It can be a weird dynamic when it comes to having somebody like, how can I say this? Sometimes people aren't qualified to help you, even though they're qualified in another area. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times your quote unquote spiritual leader may be the best person to do a thing like give you the word or convey things that they have experienced or whatever. But a lot of times they are not really qualified to assist with some of these things that they have no experience with. Yeah. And domestic violence can be one of those. Mental health is a big one. Just even sometimes like financial stuff, they just don't know. So unless these people are being honest with themselves and also honest with their congregants, to say, hey, this is what I do well, this is what I don't do well. Mm-hmm. I'm going to surround myself with the people who can actually assist all of us in these things that I don't do well. And I think that's a major part of the interdependency of a religion more in our case Christianity that we don't really utilize as much. I see a lot of them. I see more of it now, but there was a time where we was relying on the pastor for everything, and of course that goes way back to like slavery and stuff, and it kind of plays up. That's why people wasn't reading, people don't know the word, like misinterpretations of things. But like there has to be some sort of acquiescing to the fact that I don't have all the answers.
And it's a team, like a community, like especially if we go back to civil rights, it was a community. The church was a part of the community, so it's okay. And I have in the last year or so having pastors, elders, leaders who actually reach out to me like, hey sis, mental health ain't my thing. I can get spirituality, the Bible, but mental health my thing. I need to tag you in to address X, Y, and Z. It's nothing wrong with tagging someone in. Even me as a mental health professional, it's something I don't know and do, I'm tagging in. I'm calling my other mental health professionals. Hey, I got someone who did such and such and such. What would you recommend? Should I just refer this person to you because this is your strong? It's okay to say, I'm not the alpha and omega. I'm not the all. I don't have all the answers, especially with mental health. And, and there's so much, it's so many that when we talk about domestic violence, we had to relearn the Bible, not church. And a lot of stuff they was like, well, and was really beating themselves up because I got a divorce. I'm like, okay, what does the Bible say? What church said? No. What does the Bible say about that? If church said that, where's that at in the Bible? Oh, no, it's not to say that you're supposed to be in a relationship that you're getting abused in, whether male, female. You don't have to stay in a relationship you're getting abused in. And there's nothing in the Bible that says you have to say, well, God speaks, God doesn't like divorce. But God also gives exceptions on when divorce is okay.
Not even that. The thing that is most important is just to remember certain precepts. And like the major precept that you have to remember in any relationship is love. Like, what does that look like? What is love is patient and is kind. I don't know how kind it is to get beat up or how patient is somebody is because you ask them a question and that's the question they all like. So you get pops in the mouth. Like, that's not what love is. And this whole thing about, we supposed to, what did it say? Like, husbands love your wives like you should love the church. So
I use that a lot.
And what's the one for women? Like, women respect your. It's like something about respect, right?
I can't remember.
Yeah, definitely, it's respect. Trust me. Mm-hmm. So if there isn't this interplay of quote unquote how we need to be loved, then what is that? Is that really a marriage?
And it's being submissive. That's another one, because talk about being submissive. That being submissive means that you get walked over.
Nah, and
and then submit one to another.
Definitely.
That's the part we forget. So,
it'd be right. It's right there. That's the part that pisses me off all the time. Is like people don't take enough time to actually read it. And read it for what it's worth. And then if you don't understand it, read it some more. Ask. You know what I'm saying? Look at those things. And if they're giving you a weird answer, ask somebody else. Mm-hmm. And if they're just giving you an answer that's based upon what they have been told and not what they actually know and learned, then ask somebody else. Or
then Google.
Keisha. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, don't read the King James. You know what I'm saying? Read another version of the Bible. It's too much information out here now for people to just be aimlessly walking in some of these old, non-theological things and anecdotes and lessons learned that aren't really true and honest. So we
talked about that before. Like, so many things that we heard as a child that we thought was biblical, and like even God, my life around, like, thank God for grace and mercy.
It's just not true.
And then I got older, like a child. I really thought this was Bible. A child should be seen and not heard. And then I'm like learning that it's the exact opposite.
That was never in your Bible.
That was never, or God like doesn't dwell in chaos. So I said, and it's be taken like if your house is dirty, then you gotta clean your house.
No. Cleanliness next to godliness.
Yes, there we go. Cleanness next to
God doesn't go in chaos.
He doesn't like, but meaning like cleanness. That's it. Cleanness next to godliness. So I have to clean my house because like God won't come in here because it's dirty, and that's not true. That's not. God is not the author of chaos
or confusion.
Right,
yeah.
But He'll come in and strain some things. Like you can't be like that's one, but. That can lead to the thought of I gotta get my life straight before I get saved.
Yeah,
before I go to the church because I'm dwelling in chaos and confusion.
Yeah, or then you just be out here like super OCD because
you looked at me slow, right? You see that?
Because you gotta be super clean all the time,
right? Because God, I want God to come in. So if I'm not clean, He ain't gonna come in. If my house not clean, literally.
and this kind of like leads me to like be really really honest, like where I am with church. Like I'm just like super disillusioned, and it's gonna take a very special church to get me hooked into going to that church and being a member of said church, because I'm 41. Ain't a whole lot you can say that I don't already know about the Bible. Like there has to be something that says that I don't even really know what it is. But since our lived experience in especially black, I mean, this is all black church. You know what I'm saying? I went to a couple of white churches before. It ain't for me because they're not really speaking to what we talking about anyway. So I can't attest to them. But for me, it's like I am having a hard time trying to figure out like where to just go on a weekly basis.
And see, and once again, religion and church, I'm the direct opposite. I'm a church kid, real in church, and I'm like, I want our children to have the same experience. However, there's a little bit more background why he kind of got this way. We had some experiences. So it's a little bit more background that we're not going to put out there. The kind of we don't want to hurt my feelings. Yeah, we kind of got to this point. So I was there also, but also I look at too, in this season, God is removing the wool over our eyes. God is exposing. So as believers, we can't get frightened and not going to worship God because of what's being exposed. He's exposing his people exactly for what it needs to be exposed, so no more people can get hurt. So we see that this really wasn't a man of God, man or woman of God. This really was X, Y, and Z. So to me, it's kind of like, even though I hate the situation, it's like, thank you, God, for showing me that wasn't it.
Cool.
But one thing I can say, I'm be honest, just because I hear people, I do go to church. We haven't commit to a church yet, but we do follow one or two churches that we kind of go to more often.
True.
I cannot say that I still read my Bible, and I have done a lot of ministry more so out not being connected to a church than I was with a church. I'm gonna be honest, and even though some people in my life I'm trying to convince them, like, no, you need to go back to a church. You need to find your spiritual leadership. But I guess this is when we say the church hurt. We put that in, has caused some rifts, and rightfully so.
Yeah, I'm not even like, that's not even it for me.
No,
I'm just saying, just for clarity's sake, like it's really just I just don't have a lot of time for a lot of foolishness, and I'm not like I all right. That's it. You got anything else you want to say?
I.e., read your word. Not saying that every leader is bad. However, if you don't read your word, you don't know. You don't have a leg to stand on to justify. Read your worksheets. I mean your Bible. Read your God. we had some great helps from the pastors and leadership. We have had some great times.
Yeah, definitely. I don't want to sound like I'm just like, I've had some people who really looked out for us, loved us throughout our process of, being married and seeing us through. Some people who are still there with us, riding with us. So like, and they know exactly who they are. And it's, I'm just saying, like, for me personally, it's been a real struggle for me. And I, again, don't have a whole lot of time for a lot of foolishness and dealing with people's egos and people not understanding what it means to truly be interdependent within the constructs of a quote unquote church, and not like a building, but like the quote unquote living church, and not understanding how one person does one thing, that person does another thing. Everybody comes together and works together for the greater good, and everybody is uplifted. If you don't really know, like it's also Bible itself. That's like Romans 12:9-10. So I really look for that. And if I don't see that, then it's like, I can't be a part of this, because they will look at me as if I'm trying to influence what they're doing in a negative way, because it's something that they're not used to doing. And it also makes me notice that they're not really following what it really should be. Does that make sense?
Yeah, we see and hear pieces. So, that your piece or my piece, whoever piece might bring, that might be the final piece of the puzzle. Or that's what helps bring the puzzle together, which means the kingdom work. That's what helps the kingdom work.
Yeah.
And each person knowing their part.
That's a whole another 40 minutes that I don't have time to talk about. But yeah, I think this is a good stopping point. Two main things. If you are being abused, you need to tell somebody. That's number one. And number two, there is a way out. You can find your way out. It may be rough and difficult, but your life depends on that. And secondly, we'll maybe be back next week. Maybe not. Not really sure. But yeah, we appreciate you guys coming through. Make sure that you check back with the channel on Wednesday. Me and Antonio doing Ahsoka review episodes 1 and 2. They drop on Tuesdays at like 9 p.m. Can't review that thing at 12 midnight. So we still be doing it at our regular time. And that's really anything else for you?
We coming back next week. I'm back.
All right, y'all. Heard it here first. Yeah. All right, so next time. Peace.